What's up, everyone? We're talking rehab today. We're talking rehab this whole week. It's one of the hottest topics for us. A lot of people want to know how they can fix their old injuries, and for good reason. Injuries are a real pain in the butt if you don't know what to do about it, so stick around.
What's up, everyone? My name's Yanni Burmeister. I'm joined with the benevolent Phil White, and
I like it.
across the table, Rad Burmeister. Behind the camera is Richie, the voice of God. How is everyone today?
Yeah, good. I swear to God, Yanni just calls you names that it's like Brick in what's it called, Anchorman. I love Lamp. Are you just looking at things and saying you love them? Benevolent.
I always get a new descriptive word. It's great.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Anyway, but very well.
There
Excited.
you go. There you go.
I was excited to see
I'm feeling benevolent, to be
Yanni rock up to the gym in shorts today, signing that spring has sprung.
Spring is in the air.
Yeah, it is absolutely spring in Sydney today, and
It's delightful.
It's feeling good. Feeling good. How are you, Richie?
Pretty good, guys.
Pretty good. Mastering his new setup up there.
Yeah.
And for those of you who follow me on Facey, you would have seen me post some photos we took yesterday of the layout here now. It's
And if you haven't
pretty
seen
much
it,
finished, yeah.
oh man,
Looks pretty awesome. Check it out. Before we get started, guys, question of the day. I want to hear your feedback in the comments section. Have you ever injured yourself and been told to stop exercising by someone? It might be your training buddy, it might be your coach, it might be a physical therapist or physiotherapist.
Might be your mum.
Might be your mum. Yeah, that's right. That's a good one, actually. Probably highly likely it was.
Yeah.
We want to know, and we want to know a little bit about it. So try to give us more than a yes or no answer so we can discuss deeper. And as Rad said, we are going deep into injury today. Yesterday we shared a little bit about our stories and our history around injury. Between the four of us here, we've experienced almost everything.
Yeah, right up there.
It's definitely up there. And today we have Phil, our resident physiotherapist, back on around the table. He had more important things to do yesterday than to hang out with us. And so we can go deep. We can go deep into the mechanism. And today what we really want to do is separate passive and... how did you frame it just before?
Yeah, active and passive modalities. So basically what I mean by that is if you're seeing a health professional, if they're doing something to you or showing you how to do something for yourself.
Oh, I like that. I like that. So in layman's terms, for Rad and I to understand, it's basically, are you doing a rehab program that consists of exercises to strengthen, stretch, whatever it may be?
It can also be an exercises that are a pain management strategy, a flare-up strategy. So that can be part of an active approach to rehab if they're giving you things that are, inherently sort of, pain management, but as long as it's you doing it for yourself rather than someone else doing it to you.
Yep.
And
then the other alternative is, are you seeking treatment from a practitioner? It might be a chiropractor, an osteopath, a massage therapist, an acupuncturist, a physiotherapist, getting manual therapy, electro therapies. There's
sitting in a little room with a heat pack on you while the practitioner sees 4 other people at once.
Yeah, there's lots of different ways that you can have your money taken away from you. I'm kidding.
I've just found the magic spot where I can look at you.
Yeah, mate. And you
get boom.
You get a good little lean as well.
It's all happening here.
Yeah, look out. Look at Rad. He's really relaxed. He's as my 5-year-old son would say, he's laxed.
Because from where you're looking on the camera, or if you're listening to the podcast, can't really see it, but often
every day,
Rad and I are trying to find like eye contact between the
microphones and the headsets, because they're like perfect forehead height. So Phil and I are blocked, but I found them sweet spot.
As if I didn't get enough Rad already, now I have perfect.
All right, back on topic.
Here we go.
So I want to share first a little recent experience I had. I have this ongoing thing where when I max out on an overhead press, which is a barbell military press or a barbell shoulder press, whatever you want to call it, when I go for a sort of 1RM, which is for me around 85 kilos, I tend to experience some discomfort or pain in or around my shoulder blades, sort of, and it feels to me, and my brain tells me that I've like displaced a rib or something like that. It's sort of some sort of a spasm. And what tends to happen is it will last for 3 or 4 days, and I can do sort of stretches and I can do all sorts of stuff, and nothing really seems to get it as much as going down to see my bud Tom Cartwright at the chiro, and he'll give me a few adjustments, and it usually always feels great. And so this really frames the context of what we're talking about today, because there's a lot of people who stop there, and there's a lot of people who will feel some sort of pain or discomfort, and they'll go to see their favoured practitioner, and their practitioner will manipulate them or treat them or jab them with something or do something, which has all definitely got its place. And for me, it's an immediate relief of that. But then I come back to the gym and I make sure that I double down on strengthening those areas that are of issue. And over time, the problem has it happens far less, and it's far less serious. It used to be that when that happened or occurred, I would not be able to train. I'd be in that much discomfort that I'd be popping pills for 3 or 4 days. Nowadays, it's just a mild discomfort because I'm building strength in the gym and focusing on, progressively overloading that movement, not jumping to those heavy weights immediately again. And so I think this is a great way to start the discussion, because I do know that there are a lot of people out there who sort of they stop at that point. They go and get the treatment, and the treatment feels good, and then they stop because either they're afraid of
and so
aggravating again.
when that stopping happens, it is either going to be a decision by yourself to stop because of some certain belief you have, or it's going to be the practitioner does not lay out a plan of how to help manage yourself. So when it comes to stopping, you really got to think like what's driving that. So it's a really interesting thing, and it's something that I've definitely I guess changed my thinking around since I started on this journey, where I first did a short massage course in 2011, and I was like I'd been a young athlete and played like international tournaments for ultimate frisbee and had physios and massage therapists to try and keep me playing, and so I thought, oh man, I want to learn this stuff, like all that magic voodoo stuff that just keeps you being able to come back on the pitch, and that's what I really wanted to do. And I did my massage course, and I was like, I can't wait to do all the fancy sort of treatment modalities like the Graston technique, metal blade scraping stuff, and doing some acupuncture down the line, like dry needling, all of that. I was really fascinated by that whole, figuring out how you can make people feel better at the time. And then as I went through my sports science degree and when I started training more myself in the gym and then into physio, it's been this kind of evolution where I've started to change my thinking a bit more about that, and have kind of landed in a place where the biggest, most valuable thing that I can do for people is try and help them figure out how to, look after themselves and not get hurt in the process. And that also kind of came from what I was learning, but also from personal experiences where I'd sometimes go and see health practitioners, didn't have much money as a student, and then they'd sort of sign you up for treatment for long periods of time, or didn't give you a clear plan about what they're doing, rather just say sort of, see you next week, see you next week, see you next week. And I wasn't sort of feeling like I was understanding how what they were doing is making a difference. So it's really informed the way that I now practice and the way I think about injury rehabilitation. And I think it's a really important discussion to have. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And Rad, you've certainly had your fair share of experiences with this. And there's one thing that we spoke about when I first came into the gym this morning that you were quite proud of, was that we're doing a lot of testing at the moment in the gym. It's our testing week, and a lot of the guys were testing calisthenics movements that they haven't. There's a reason why I'm sort of deviating off the path here. I'll bring it back in. Trust me. A lot of the guys had retested calisthenics moves and been able to do things that they had not been able to do in the past, and the reason for that is because for the last couple of the last macro cycle of the program, we've really just focused on making people strong and flexible, and there wasn't a lot of calisthenics in that. And why I'm sharing this, and you can probably share a little bit about what was going on this morning, is because at the grassroots of everything, whether you're injured and wanting to overcome that injury, or whether you're trying to achieve fancy movements, to demonstrate fancy movements in calisthenics, to just get strong and flexible is going to really, really help, you know. And it sort of aligns with what we're talking about here, which is that to just continually treat issues and injuries without looking at the macro of how strong and flexible are you and what kind of body do you have, or are you producing, you're probably going to stay in that perpetual cycle of just treating injuries, you know.
Well, that's not why they could do calisthenics this morning. The reason why they can do calisthenics is because we have the ultimate program for developing strength and flexibility. And I say that with my hand on my heart. And the result, the proof is in the pudding, because we're taking, everyone in the class is getting better and better. It's not just that the people that are coming that were already good are now able to do things. People that came here that couldn't do anything when they started are achieving things that they could never do before. And yeah, it's because we've stripped the program back to the grassroots, where we, like one of our members, Greg, who hasn't been here for 13 months, who when he was here, we used to do more calisthenics that everybody did, that everybody was told to do as part of the class. Like we used to do handstands in the class, you know. And he said, so when do you guys do calisthenics now? And I said, well, Wednesdays is still a straight arm strength day. But I said, outside of that, it's up to you. It's when you're ready for it and if it's within your goals. I don't hold anybody back. If anybody says to me, I want to learn how to do this, then I'll show them what they can do. But you have to, during the class time, you have to have achieved certain milestones with strength before I allow you to go on the gymnastics rings or anything like that. And he went, oh, that makes a lot of sense. And as he was saying that, here's our members that haven't been on the rings for 6 or 7 months doing back levers that they've never been able to do before. Yeah. And they were blown away. They were all like, oh my God, I can't believe I can do this. And it's just because they are so much stronger now. And I said to everybody, I said, look, there's 2 ingredients that make you good at calisthenics above anything else. What is it? And everybody said, be as strong as you can. I said, yep. Nobody guessed the second one. It's have a healthy body composition. Yeah. If you're, you know, and as soon as I said it, they went, oh yeah. I said, yeah, go and grab an 8 kilo kettlebell, try and do pull-ups, see how much harder it is. So now imagine you were carrying that around with everything that you were doing, you know, and that's only 8 kilos, that's nothing. Yeah. But yeah, so if you go back to injuries, like Phil said, correct me if I'm wrong, but we've talked about injuries before. Injuries are generally speaking, it comes from an abusive load to the body, right? Like there's a load that the body couldn't handle that you put it through. So for some people, that abusive load is like nothing to anybody else. It's like stepping out of your car and slipping a little bit and rolling your ankle, and that became an abusive load. Whereas I've been walking in the military with 50 kilos on my back, like we were talking about yesterday, and I've slipped and rolled my ankle and dropped down to the ground on one knee, like my leg buckled under me, and people behind me went, "Oh God, are you all right, man?" And I got up and walked it off, because for me that wasn't an abusive enough load to cause an injury. So I think the abusive load is relative to what the person's capability is.
Subjective,
so,
yeah.
So well, it's not subjective. It comes down to what the person has experienced before that. So
it's like that bucket and tap.
Exactly.
So right?
Yeah, exactly. So you have like a certain capacity within each of your tissues. That comes down to bones, your ligaments, your muscles, your discs, your cartilage, and each of those things have had a certain amount of stress that they've had to adapt to over time. And if you suddenly exceed that stress in a big enough way, those structures will not be able to handle it and they'll get injured. And so that now constitutes an abusive load. Whereas for you, if you've been choking on your own tongue here, sorry. Whereas for you, when you've been, as part of the army, they put you through some brutal stuff, and you were there for a while where that, that's become fairly normal for you. So if I was to go for a hike with 50 kilos on my back after my usual sort of cushy inner city life, like that would be kind of enough that any sort of deviation from very controlled movement would suddenly be an abusive load and I'd likely injure myself. But because you'd been doing it, you'd expose your body for it for a long period of time, then now you're prepared for it. And so when it comes back to rehab training, it's all about thinking, what are the things that you're trying to achieve? What are the goals that you're trying to achieve? What exercises or sports or whatever do you want to be able to do, and then how do we match your training to make that thing that you're trying to achieve as close to what you've trained in the gym. And that might it might not mean that you're wanting to like go for a hike, so therefore you have to do hiking with like weights in your back, but rather in the gym we're mimicking those hip movements, the single leg stuff, and we're progressively overloading with weight, and that is a training program that will prepare your body for that. So it's building up that tolerance through strength training to allow yourself to be able to handle more and not get injured.
Yeah. So to bring it back to leaving these beautiful people who are tuning in and listening and watching something really valuable that they can take from this, how to beat your injuries. Would we agree that, I think we'd all agree that at a fundamental level, a proactive exercise plan is paramount. We talk about this a lot. There's very seldom a situation where you should abstain from exercise entirely when you hurt yourself. And you've made a few examples before of when that might be the case. It might be in the event of a serious bone fracture or something like that, where you have to reset the bones in place.
But even then, you can be doing other parts of your body, keeping that exercising.
Yeah.
So I want to kind of wrap this up not wrap it up, but explain it in a way that, as sort of I've come to over time, which is thinking about that sort of Maslow's hierarchy of needs that like Jan and I have talked about a bit in terms of business, and how also you can apply it to when you're seeing a health practitioner. And I think, the fundamental things that you need to make sure that are happening when you go see a health professional is, have I got a diagnosis? Do I know what's happening? Like, is it clear kind of what the injury is and what that completely disqualifies me from doing? Because like, you want to make sure that it's very clear, like if there's certain sort of no-go areas, make that clear. A lot of health practitioners are probably a bit too conservative about that, I think, and people tell people to stop doing things entirely. But anyway, that's the basic part. You want a diagnosis, you want to know what you're working with. And then from there, I think it's really important to have, you've got to align your sort of goals of what you're trying to achieve in the long term. And then you've got to come up with, first up, a kind of flare-up strategy or just how to tackle that pain side of things. So that might be part of a bit of pain science and maybe a few movements or exercises or guidelines around what you should avoid or what you can do for yourself that will manage the pain. Then it's going to be about having an exercise program that's aligning with the goal, what you're trying to achieve to, and a progressive way to get there. And then if you've kind of got all of that down, then and you've got a pacing strategy. A pacing strategy is basically how to introduce the thing that. So you might have a exercise training program, which would be in the gym you're doing a certain thing, but then maybe you're trying to get back to, for me, beach volleyball. So then you have a pacing strategy of how you actually reintroduce the sport, how I introduce beach volleyball into my life. And so that's kind of that's the base of the pyramid. So as long as you're getting those things at the bottom first, then you can move up to the next level, then you can move up to the next level. And then at the top, there's going to be things that have diminishing returns and maybe are not evidence-based to have a positive result. And that generally is where the passive strategies, the manual therapy, the electrostimulation, the acupuncture, all of those things are they're not going to deal with the load tolerance. They're not going to deal with a progressive overload thing that will get you back to performing at your best. No matter how much acupuncture you get, your muscles are not going to get, build up their capacity to deal with the work you're trying to do. So if you've done everything else, if you've got all of those things done, then, I think it's worth sort of doing those somewhat more speculative things that might make you feel a bit better and may have tangible results. But that comes down to your decisions with the health practitioner, because really it's going to come down to cost. It takes a long time to get all of those base parts of the pyramid done. So you've got to make sure that you're getting them done and you're willing to pay for the preceding things. But if someone comes in, they do a quick diagnosis and they get you straight on the table to do acupuncture, and they don't deal with that, then you're going to be stuck in this loop of never getting the tools you need to help yourself.
My personal opinion, this is my personal philosophy on injury, is that injuries really sort of fall into two categories. One of them is a complete accident that is acute injury. Actually, no, I won't even say that. I'll say all injuries here. This is for me. This is my personal philosophy on it, based on many, many, many injuries over 25 years of doing my own training, 30 years of doing my own training. So there's the accident, there's the one that was really unplanned for, because some people can say, well, look, my car got hit by another car, what can I do about that? That's out of your control. But everything else, in my experience with myself, is that it was bad planning. The injury happened because I didn't prepare for whatever I was doing properly. So when I tore my Liz Frank ligament, when I did the injury, I didn't warm up. I wasn't doing a proper training session. I was trying to show off to Aaron. That's not what I was saying, of course, but I was trying to show him what I'd achieved without preparing for the workout properly. It wasn't a workout. It was hey, look what I learned the other day, and I injured myself. Same thing with my slap tear. I hadn't prepared my body properly. I hadn't developed the required amount of raw strength to do the calisthenics movements that I was trying to do. And it's it's a a philosophical way to approach things, but that's my honest opinion. I think if you take away those accident things, I think most injuries come from people just not preparing for the situation properly, be it either not warming up properly or not doing the required amount of conditioning in their body to get themselves to the point that that it isn't an abusive load that they did. And for a lot of people, it's a really hard thing to understand, because a lot of people get into their, a lot of the time you see these chronic injuries in people that are in their 50s and 60s and things like that, right? And they haven't done any weightlifting or resistance training at all. And when you're at that stage, like that journey to get your body out of that fragile state is quite long. It's quite a unpleasant reality that a lot of people face when they come to us that are in that 50s and 60s category.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I want to leave this, because tomorrow we're going to talk about something very, very important, which is that there are scenarios where people don't overcome their injury because they treat it incorrectly, either through an incorrect diagnosis, they self-diagnose and then treat an acute issue. They treat it as though it's an acute issue, but it's actually a tendinopathy or something like that, and the two treatment strategies need to be different. And then but for today's discussion, I think what I want people to really take home is that, there are two styles of treatment for an injury, and one makes you feel good now. Usually, you get a very quick sense of satisfaction from it, but it does very little, if anything at all, for preventing that to reoccur.
And potentially it can sometimes be even bad long term, because you think that my body only functions if I have this done to me.
That's right, exactly. And negative. I've seen that a lot, and it's like, maybe you can relate. I am absolutely addicted to massage, remedial massage. I've enjoyed it since I was a child. My mother introduced us to massage at a very young age. We had a very good massage practitioner in my hometown, and since I was about 8 years old, she used to take us in and get massages, and it just feels amazing, and I love it, but I get them so regularly that when I don't get them, I kind of don't feel good. I kind of don't feel like I'm functioning the way I am, and there are a lot of people who are discouraged from doing the thing that they need to do, which is to get more strong, flexible, and athletic, which will solve so many issues, almost all issues, in the body, and they're discouraged from doing that because they're addicted to the passive approach, which. Yeah, I just think it's sort of like it's like that instant gratification.
It takes the
syndrome.
responsibility from you to have to do work and it puts it in the practitioner to fix you.
Way,
So it's a way of getting like an instant tangible thing that's like, okay, I feel different now, and there's something that's beyond my control that you are changing for me.
Yeah.
Whereas like for pretty much all injuries, it comes down to this capacity and load issue, and it's hard. It is hard to get that programming right to reintroduce your stuff to yourself to what you need to be able to do. So it's a grueling thing that takes consistent effort and time and work. And so I think it's a much better business model as a health practitioner to keep things mysterious, keep the control in the ball in your court, to say you have to keep coming back to see me to feel better. Yeah. And so there's all sorts of incentive issues, I think, in healthcare, and I really it's something that I'm very passionate about and trying to figure out ways to, help change.
Navigate and change.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think that it's a really interesting and very hard thing in a private healthcare setting to get those incentives right and build a business model that is good for health practitioners, where you can, actually make money, but not having to trick or, having to coerce people into coming back more than they need to.
Yeah.
And so what I think it really comes down to is an agreement between the practitioner and the patient. And I think the patient's voice needs to be there, where you need to be the person asking the questions like, okay, cool, like I can see that you really want to do this, but what's our long-term strategy? What do we what's
the strategy?
How am I going to get from here to here? What can I do for myself? So really at this kind of stage, I think it comes down to patients needing to ask those questions, and that's what I'm really hoping to get across here, is knowing which questions to ask, getting that diagnosis right, getting the what can I definitely not do, and what can I definitely what can I do, and how are we going to get from A to B. So
yeah, absolutely. And for anyone, I mean, look, I've had as much treatments as anyone who is a glutton for a bit of spinal masturbation or massage therapy or whatever else.
Phil rolls his eyes.
And I'm saying this from the heart. Nothing that I've ever done on a table or in a clinic compares to the exercise that I've done, for my body. Like the two don't even compare. And so, I think
what I'd love I think it makes it very clear with with Rad with your slap tear, you would not be able to have just PB'd your bench press if you just got acupuncture.
No way.
No, not to rag just on acupuncture, but this is a good example of these passive modalities don't make you stronger. They don't build up stability in the joint. They don't adapt you to the thing that you're trying to achieve, and for you trying to achieve strength, you've got to do the work.
I believe they have their use. They're definitely tools that you can have at your disposal, but
only if you choose and you make that decision. Yes, I'm willing to do more treatments and get more, pay more money to you to get these things once we've got everything else in place.
The reason why you and I love that stuff so much is because we do all of the other stuff by default. So for us, it's a valuable thing. It adds that little bit.
It's that top of that pyramid where you've got the foundations all there. You've done all the work. You've got that, and then it's diminishing returns percentage on top. And that's what professional athletes do as well. They get their training right. They get their load managed to the nth degree. They get their nutrition right. They get their sleep right. And so then it makes sense. Okay, they've got to get small percentages matter to them, so they'll get this work done. But I think in the kind of general population setting, most people are not getting everything else right. Their sleep's crap, they're stressed, they're not eating well, they're
hardly exercising.
They're hardly exercising,
all,
and they're probably not exercising, with great technique, and they probably haven't got a program that's putting them towards their goals. And so if you then just plonk on really expensive, passive modalities, then what is that getting you? Except for temporary relief and a bit of giving someone else the job of fixing you instead of sorting yourself out.
Abdicating responsibility. Okay, guys.
We've got to wrap this up.
Yeah, we got to wrap this up. We got no comments except for just some great praise and some sharing. Thank you, Lee Clements, for sharing the stream. And Adrian Sneary, when are you going to get your ass in here for a freaking workout, mate? We're waiting. Big shout out to everyone who's listening on the podcast. We love you long time, and the YouTube channel. We are watching you, and we're very excited about what's coming for YouTube. We're going to be doing our weekly workouts again soon, so look out for those. Our recent sprint has been on getting the gym finished. I'll post all the photos in the UMS Movement Mastermind group, which brings me to my final point. If you haven't joined the UMS Movement Mastermind private Facebook group, please do today, because we have 2,999 people in the group, and we would love to see it tick over to 3,000 today. It is a fast-growing tribe of driven people, all striving to become strong, flexible, and athletic together, and it's very, very fun. And you get to watch us here live.
Yeah.
Have a great day, everyone.
Have a great day, guys. See you soon.
Health is about performance, not just body image.
You better be willing to accept what you're going to have to do to get there.
We'll start focusing on movement goals, strength goals, flexibility goals.
When you nail that skill, it's there forever.
The body image goal doesn't get you that far.
It's the consistency and frequency that's going to get you there. It's not the intensity.
There's no shortcuts to mastery and movement. Destination doesn't change overnight, but your direction will.
The gym is not the place to beat up the body that you hate. It's the place to build the body that you love.
We are the gym that teaches people how to move instead of just exercise, because we believe that health is about performance, not just body image.